Hey there, Papper people. It is your thickest and favoritist polysomnographic technologist. It's me, Jason. Welcome back to the channel. I had something totally different planned, but look at this post by Nico of CPAP Reviews. Look at this guy driving around in his truck with a full face mask on. If you read the post, this is just brushed off as being like, haha, funny, this guy's Goose, Maverick, Top Gun reference, right? If we take a much deeper look at this, there's a lot more to it, in my opinion. And by the end of this, I want you to decide, is this guy the greatest supervillain of all time? Or is he a national treasure that needs to be protected at all costs? Let's dive into this by first talking about the arbitrary nature of a sleep apnea diagnosis. For whatever reason, the apnea-hypopnea index being 5 is thought of as being the threshold of mild sleep apnea. That typically goes from 5 to 15. Now, apnea-hypopnea index is the number of apneas and hypopneas per hour of sleep. So if we have the minimum of 5 going up to 15, and then 15 to 30 is considered mild, and then 30 and up is considered severe. These numbers are completely random. They were pulled out of nowhere. I'm sure a panel of doctors got on board, looked at it, and decided these are where we were going to set them, but why? Let's do the numbers on this. If we have an AHI of 5 out of 8 hours of sleep, you're going to have 40 apneas or hypopneas. Now, an apnea, complete cessation of breathing while you're attempting to breathe. And then a hypopnea is a 30% decrease in your breathing with either a 3 or 4% oxygen desaturation and or an arousal, an awakening. So if you have 40 of these per 8 hours of sleep, you have sleep apnea. But if you have 39 of these in that same amount of time, you don't have sleep apnea. What sense does that make? Now, a lot of the people that are doing PAP therapy analysis with me, with my website, axgsleepdiagnostics.com, some of these people feel absolutely great. I get the idea that they're throwing me a bone. Hey, would you look at my data? Make sure it's okay. I just want another set of eyes on it. Now, these people feel really good. They have no problems with their sleep. They feel like they're sleeping great with CPAP. To them, all's well, just another set of eyes. I take a look at it and I can see arousal after arousal after arousal. And we can confirm this because we make some changes to their pressure or leaks, and all of a sudden they actually are sleeping better. But to them, they're sleeping great. Now, you can have this exact same thing with someone who has even moderate sleep apnea. Diagnosable in the range of moderate sleep apnea, but they feel perfectly fine. They function throughout the day. They don't have excessive daytime fatigue, memory, concentration, mental thought clarity. It's all there. They're good. And yet they have this diagnosis of sleep apnea. Now, on the flip side of that, there's other people that you look at their data and more or less it looks pretty good. Most people would kill for that kind of data. These are typically upper airway resistance people. They have the low AHI, higher RDI. And if we make some tweaks to their settings, it's typically a change to bilevel, then they're feeling much better. But if you look at their actual baseline numbers, their baseline numbers aren't high. You wouldn't look at them and say, you're diagnosed with obstructive sleep apnea. No way. With those two examples, it really brings into question about this diagnosis of obstructive sleep apnea and just how arbitrary the numbers are. Okay, let's go back to our friend in the truck. He's rocking the CPAP mask while he's driving his truck. I don't want to out this guy. This guy's crazy. And I'll tell you exactly what he's doing in a minute. Okay, this guy's obviously a commercial driver. He's regulated under the Department of Transportation. There's actually another name for it. I can't remember, the Federal Motor something something. I'll post it online right now. But if you are diagnosed with obstructive sleep apnea, you have an AHI of 5 or more, you are required to have at least 4 hours per night on CPAP at least 70% of the time. Meaning, in a period of 10 days, you have to use CPAP at least 7 of those nights. And of those 7 nights, you have to wear it. It doesn't say anything about sleeping. You have to wear it for at least 4 hours of those nights. Ultimately, the medical examiner is the one that determines whether you're safe to drive or not. All right, now let's go with the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. Now for the FAA, it is based on 75% of the nights must be used with CPAP, meaning if you have 4 nights, you have to have at least 3 of them using CPAP, and you have to have 6 hours of those nights with recorded time. Anything about sleep? Nah, just 6 hours of recorded time on your PAP device, 3 out of 4 nights. You also have to have a personal statement that you're using your CPAP machine, your equipment, prior to every work shift. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. We've all heard the stories of crashes, of truck drivers falling asleep, veering off the road. crashing their truck, sometimes hitting other people, and the thought of public safety comes to mind. Now, these are commercial drivers. They can take out cars easily. And then there's certainly problems with pilots, right? You don't want your pilot to fall asleep. There was recently a story of both pilots falling asleep on an aircraft, and this is completely separate from Boeing aircraft completely falling apart. But these rules for the DOT and the FAA, as well as the arbitrary rules for diagnosis of sleep apnea and their subjective feelings about it from the patient, how do you actually feel? Are you actually tired? This is where worlds start to collide and friction starts to occur. Drivers and pilots are insanely pissed because none of them feel like they have a problem. They're perfectly awake. Then you have these calls for public safety versus personal freedoms, individual liberties, whatever you want to call it. And then when that comes into play, you hear people talking about, well, driving is a right, not a privilege. And all of these arguments honestly make a lot of sense to me. There's a lot of gray area in sleep medicine, that's for sure. Okay, let's go back to our friend in the truck. When you have arbitrary rules and you have a lack of enforcement of those arbitrary rules because it's stupid, you get shit like this. So what's this guy doing in the truck? In case you haven't figured it out now, this guy has been diagnosed with sleep apnea. He's trying to prove compliance by wearing it his 4 hours. Is he gonna get his 4 hours at night when he's supposed to? Nah. He's gonna go ahead and hook this thing up in his truck, drive around with it for 4 hours, and be done with it by lunchtime. I think we can all agree this is not in the spirit of the rule, but in this case, you gotta hate the game and not the player.
Unless it's LeBron.
Or maybe not. What do you guys think? Is this guy a hero or is this guy a villain? Now I'm gonna go ahead and offer my opinion on this that I know nobody asked for. For diagnosis, there definitely needs to be some kind of a threshold that is met. I understand that, there needs to be that. But I think this also has to be coupled with, what is a person feeling? Are they feeling sleepy during the day? Are there other problems that are coming up because of sleep apnea? And really, is a person complaining about it? That's the main issue. In most situations, the person, you'd go to your doctor because you're having a problem. You're saying, hey doctor, I'm tired. What could this be? Oh, going for a test. In this case, the drivers and the pilots are being flagged by reasons not because they're tired, not because they're sleepy, but because they have maybe atrial fibrillation. Maybe they have a larger neck size. Maybe their BMI is much higher than it should be. And so they get flagged for this stuff. They're told you have to go in because you probably have sleep apnea, when they're saying, but I'm not tired. And so this is where the friction comes in. So here's my thoughts. In keeping with our American ideals of innocent until proven guilty, there is a test, so an MWT. And in this case, you're put in a dark room, you're reclined. The goal is you don't fall asleep. Now this is like the most boring environment ever. It's cozy, you're leaned back. If you fall asleep, obviously that's gonna be a fail. But if you stay awake, you've proven yourself that you're not a danger to fall asleep. I think if people regulated by the DOT and the FAA had this opportunity to stay awake, to prove their innocence instead of guilt by association of other symptoms, I think it'd be a much better system. And you wouldn't get things like this guy in the truck. Now, friends, if you want to game the system, but you don't have a CPAP or a CPAP mask, head on over to cpapsupplies.com. You can get a full face mask just like this guy has. He has the F20, I believe. Now, I can't tell from the picture whether it's an Air Touch or an Air Fit. The Air Touch, in my opinion, is much better because you have that memory foam. Get a little air under there. You don't get kind of skin breakdown. You don't get the sweaty, grimy feeling under that silicone all night. It's kind of breathable. Really, really nice. And now it says you can only last 30 days. I disagree. I think you can get it to last much longer. The N20 Air Touch that I use, I have over a year on the same cushion. If you do head on over to cpapsupplies.com, make sure you use discount code LANKY20 or LEFTY20 or 20LEFTY, I can't remember. I'll leave it in the description box. With that, I want to know your thoughts on this video, and especially, is this guy a hero? Is he a national treasure? Or is he just a villain? All right, guys, thanks for watching. Bye.
Clean your stinky mask with some Mask Bright, available at Amazon. Thank you to all watching, but an extra thick thanks, buddy, to Doug Toombs, Jason Georgiades, Patricia Espelong, Sarvesh Joshi, Stuart Hetherington, Mona Swearingen, Chungtu Chen, Edward Steiner, Erin Stevenson, Deborah Permute, and Shannon Kerr, and another slightly less thick thanks, buddy, to all the other YouTube members, Patreon supporters, and other stuff.